Hello there, and welcome to another episode of HomeTech.fm. Jason Griffin here. So happy to be with you, as usual, joined by my partner in crime, Seth. Seth, how are you?
Good man, good man. You all rested up? Had a good vacation?
I am. Yeah, we had a great time. We actually, my wife and I took Riley, our baby girl, on her first flight, and so that was a bit of an adventure. Short flight though. We flew from Los Angeles to Phoenix, where my parents live. And we were down there for a long weekend, basically 5 days. And my mom and her friend threw a baby shower for my wife and obviously the baby. And that was a whole lot of fun. And of course, just great to see my parents with the baby and just hang out. And they heated up the pool and, we barbecued and just a good time. Nice to get away.
Absolutely. It's always always nice to get away.
Yeah, definitely. But was excited to be back. We have, I should say, a great show here that I've been very excited to share with our audience. And this was actually a show that we had scheduled to air to about a couple weeks ago. And it was with Daniel Obodovski. And Daniel is the co-author of a book called The Silent Intelligence, which is all about the Internet of Things and just all of this connectivity that we're seeing in our world. And it was a really interesting conversation. We had initially scheduled to have him on a couple of weeks ago, and he had actually lost his voice and wasn't able to join us, so we had to reschedule. And we have him on this week, and really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I definitely got my gears turning in my head of all the couple of things that we talked about. I mean, it's just we're in this, and we've Internet of Things is kind of a buzzword, but he brought up a number of interesting topics that we won't spoil for you there in the interview that I found. Yeah, they got the gears going and
definitely
greased up, and I'm ready to do something, I think so.
yeah, he's got a really interesting background in the space and a knowledge base that is reflected in this book. That it's obviously about the Internet of Things and a term M2M or machine to machine communication, which is bigger than just the connected home. Of course, the connected home is just one facet of that. It also expands into industrial and automotive and wearable technology, just to name a few. But we talked generally at first about the Internet of Things, but certainly tried to focus the interview on the connected home and smart home technology. And really just hope if you're listening that you enjoy that conversation and hopefully take something away from it. I know I did.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of the connected home, I got a little bit of follow-up about a connected home product that I got a couple weeks back, and I think we talked about it a little bit. Yeah,
the Ring, correct?
Yeah, the Ring doorbell. I have been meaning. Well, I could have talked about it a little bit last week when we had the show with Richard, but I figured I'd hold off and wait. I was able to finally call Ring because for whatever reason I just didn't have time, and I really can't fault them for me delaying any to call them. So finally gave them a call, got a hold of somebody, and they picked right up. Definitely a good phone experience. They had me do the old push the button on the back and hold it in, and
sure.
Yeah, it's like, okay, yep, I'm doing it. I've been doing that.
Yeah.
It's. I think you and I are probably tech support pros, right? Like,
oh yeah,
we've been through all this. We know the drill. We know how to count to 12 seconds while having a conversation with somebody and writing something down with the other hand.
Yeah,
and, yeah. It was funny, but we got through that. And then she said she found an error on the system, and they're just going to ship me another one, and which was great. Yeah. And I got notification that it was shipped, and unfortunately, they used the U.S. Postal Service, which I'm looking at the tracking right now. It says expected delivery day, Thursday, March 5th, which, if you know your dates, it's today.
Yeah.
I have no Ring doorbell yet, so maybe it'll show up tomorrow. We'll see what the Postal Service wants to do. It was 3-day priority, but I guess it's not much of a priority for the post office.
Yeah, that's true. They use that term rather loosely.
Yeah, definitely. But I got to say, good experience on tech support. I had sent an email back to someone that had emailed me before, and she did reference that email and said, "Oh, that guy's not here anymore." But it's one of those grow and pay things. Like, all right, he's not there anymore and nobody's checking his email.
Yeah.
Like small company, I can understand. They'll get through it. But yeah, totally. I'm back on board. Let's just get the new one in and see how well it works.
Yeah, well, keep us posted. Like I said a couple of weeks ago, we had talked about this on the show, and I think it's really good to share your experiences, even if they're bad ones. I mean, there's not always, things don't always operate smoothly in the smart home, and I think that it sounds like Ring is trying to make right on it, and I'm sure they will. I'm sure they'll get it sorted out. Like you said, small company and still an upstart, and so hopefully this next one works out better for you. Speaking of new products, although not from a new company, looks like Panasonic has put out a new camera, sort of, I guess, a rival to Drop Cam in a loose sense, at least. They're actually branding this thing as a Nubo, N-U-B-O, and kind of what makes this camera interesting to me and why I wanted to touch on it real quick is that this has 4G in it. So it's 4G equipped. So, what that means to the end user is that you don't necessarily need to have Wi-Fi. And that's kind of interesting because, for most of us, we think about these cameras and we think about putting them in our house. And I think it's safe to say probably everybody listening has a Wi-Fi network in their house. But this might be good for somebody who has that edge case where maybe you have like a detached garage or something and you may not have Wi-Fi out there. Might be a nice option for you to be able to put this thing out there and still be able to keep an eye on your garage without having to worry, about extending Wi-Fi out to that area of your property.
Yeah, and this is always a question that I've had down here. People want to watch, temporarily, or just they want to see if there's an animal getting through their trash, or figure out what's going on outside. And I think products like this. There was that other one, I forget who made it, Arlo. I want to say it was Linksys. I'm not sure. We'll put it in the show notes, which will be at HomeTech.fm/shows/54.
54.
Yeah.
Way above 30.
Cheating 20 shows here. We'll put those links to the Arlo in this Nubo and the Nubo Cam in the show notes. But they have a pretty cool video kind of detailing that, what you said, like people watching things where they don't exactly have the ability to either use the Wi-Fi or have Wi-Fi at all, like a detached garage or something, or maybe it's something out in the field that they want to take a look, keep an eye on. I thought it'd be cool to use this for like this was kind of a big thing back, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago when projects were going on, that you'd stick a camera out on a pole somewhere, like an IP camera, and it would take a picture every, 45 minutes to an hour, and do it like a time lapse of the building being built. Have you seen those? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it'd be cool to do something like that with this. I'm not sure if you could, and I'm not sure what. I didn't see any pricing on this. Did you?
Yeah, I didn't either. But it looks small and inexpensive, and probably not geared towards like that particular use case that you're talking about. But
right.
There might be a workaround or something.
Yeah, they list on the press release and the Engadget story that we'll link to, storage units, construction sites, RVs, which that's not a bad mm-hmm. idea, gardens and more. And so there's definitely places out there like RVs. That's a great place. I know plenty of people who, when I put a camera on their RV, or at least keep an eye on it when they're a lot of those RV guys, they park their RVs out in like a parking lot, like in a Walmart or whatever, and then they get in a car that they tow behind it and drive off to do shopping or whatever. They're in the area, and they'll leave the RV parked there running in the parking lot. And I'm sure that they'd want to see what's going on if somebody tried to break in.
Yeah,
so, not a bad idea.
And to that end, we should point out that it, for anybody listening who's wondering about power, it basically, the way that works is, as I'm understanding it, they sell like an external USB battery pack. So you still have to, plug it into something, but you're not reliant on having a 110 volt outlet where you need to have this camera. So that's another convenient factor that kind of gives you a lot of flexibility. And I just thought it was an interesting camera, and one that certainly would be a good fit for people that have those particular use cases.
Yeah, here, and the pricing is here $249 for each unit.
Oh, okay.
Not bad.
Not cheap, but not outrageous either. So a couple other stories we just wanted to hit real quick before we jump into our interview with Daniel Obodovski. This has been a big story, and I've heard it talked about on a couple other shows that we know and love. Mike Wolf's show, the Smart Home Show. He's touched on this and has a great take on it. People can find that show at alongside of ours at technology.fm. Bluetooth has gone mesh. And this is a big deal because Bluetooth as a wireless standard has a lot of benefits. It's very low power, so it's very efficient in terms of battery usage. But one of the big knocks on Bluetooth has always been the fact that it has limited range. And the way that protocols like Zigbee, for example, have gotten around range issues is their ability to mesh. So each device, each node on a Zigbee network essentially acts as a repeater. And so the more devices, at least in theory, that you add to your Zigbee network, the stronger that network gets and the greater the range, right?
Right. And there's one other thing about a mesh network. If a node goes down in the middle, the mesh is smart enough to figure out a route around that node. So
right.
it doesn't ever, you don't ever orphan off of other devices on the end. There's always a way to get around something that's either having a problem or gone offline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so this is a big deal for Bluetooth because for them to finally have this ability to mesh, it really, I think, makes Bluetooth a very compelling contender for like a more prominent role in the smart home. I personally am one of the belief that I don't think we're ever going to get to the point where there's just this one standard to rule them all. And you kind of hear people talk about this sometimes. And I don't know that I see that ever happening because I just think that different protocols and, different radio types have different use cases and different benefits. And I think there's always going to be a place for multiple standards and protocols in the smart home. But I do see Bluetooth becoming much more of a serious contender. And we've talked about it before. I mean, it's basically built into every smartphone that's out there. So you got a huge base out there of installed devices. You can't say the same thing for something like Z-Wave or Zigbee. So Bluetooth is certainly has long been a very interesting technology and certainly one to watch for anybody who's interested in the smart home. But I think the fact that they're now getting into the ability to mesh really makes them interesting.
Yeah, I can't wait to see. I mean, this is a low powered piece of silicone, and it's cheap. And I mean, some of the specs that come out for Bluetooth are just staggering. Like a battery can last in these things for like 3 years. Like you said, I'm excited to see this, and I hope something comes out of it. It's going to add another standard on the top of the mix, but
yeah.
That's not a bad thing either.
Right.
Choice is always pretty good because honestly, Zigbee doesn't work in every application. Z-Wave doesn't work in every application. You may there's always a price point and a benefit for whether it is price point or technology for every product.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've talked about multiple times on the show is, and we both have, is this idea of micro location inside of the home and kind of tying that into home automation and being able to execute different scenes based on not just the fact that you've arrived home, but the fact that you're in your master bedroom versus in your kitchen. And this technology of micro location, by and large, I think is going to be a Bluetooth technology. We're already seeing it with beacons and Crestron's pinpoint technology, I believe is Bluetooth based. And I think that's a very compelling use case for home automation in the smart home. And again, I just think, the ability of Bluetooth now to mesh really is just going to enhance the ability of manufacturers to develop products that cater to that.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. It's exciting news, and it's another standard, but we'll see what happens. So, speaking of news that's gone around this week, did you see this thing about AT&T revealing a connected car and home automation platform?
I certainly did. It was it got a lot of coverage. It was on multiple tech blogs that I follow in my streams, and it's this story about AT&T combining their connected car and connected home platforms. And my initial reaction was first, wait, AT&T has a connected car platform? Like, I had no idea. Did you?
No. This picture they have online is it's just hilarious because there's like this 12-inch monitor turned sideways and shoved in a dash. I don't know if this is like a real car or not, but man, it looks so funny to see all of the junk they have strewn on the interface, and they're just like bullet pointing out all the things that it can do. Like, my eyes, they hurt. Yeah.
And I'm looking at this thing thinking about, all of the insane drivers on the roads in Los Angeles and seeing this giant screen of all these buttons and everything that, right in somebody's face as they're trying to drive. And I'm thinking, this will help you automate your home and probably also help you crash your car.
Yeah, well, at least I can see one of the bullet points is a roadside assistance button.
That is true. They thought of everything.
Exactly. I mean, it's all the way around.
Yeah. But, it is, in a way, it's interesting to me in the sense of kind of this convergence of connected technology. And we've often thought of, the connected car or wearable technology or the smart home as kind of in silos, right? And we don't always think of them as all being one sort of interlocked system. And I think that's really where things are headed. And that kind of ties in perfectly to the conversation with Daniel that we're about to share, is just this idea of ubiquitous, connectivity and your smart home being able to talk to your wearable device, and those devices also being able to communicate with your connected car. This stuff is all coming, and it's really just fascinating to watch.
Yeah. This is one of those Internet of Things that we'll be discussing with Daniel here. This is definitely one point on the map of all the things that you'd be able to do, and I think this is going to be more. I mean, not this particular implementation of an Internet of Things smart car. I think this is going to be something that becomes more and more common. Is where you get like service dates, like Tesla Motors. They do they do firmware updates to their cars to give you more horsepower.
Right.
I mean, that kind of stuff is, and they're like proactive on their service. Like if your battery's having a problem, they'll say, "Hey, we're going to pick up the car and do some service. When's a good day for you?" Right on the screen on the dashboard. So I mean, it's all this stuff is coming down the line, and this is AT&T, I guess, throwing an awkwardly sized hat into the ring. And I mean, this picture is just outrageous, I think. But
it is kind of funny.
Yeah, without that, I get it, but. Yeah.
Right. I think it's a little bit overstated, probably is what you're getting at. But anyways, interesting concept, and does tie together with, just this idea of connectivity everywhere and the Internet of Things. And to that end, I think we'll jump into our interview here. Again, this is Daniel Obodovski, and he is the co-author of a book called The Silent Intelligence. And we hope you enjoy the conversation. We are pleased to welcome Daniel Obodovski to the show. Daniel, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us this evening. We've been looking forward to having this conversation with you about the book Silent Intelligence and just sort of the Internet of Things and in particular kind of how this space is going to affect the smart home and really excited to have this conversation. But before we jump into the book, for any one of our listeners who may not be familiar with you personally, maybe you could give us just a little bit of a personal background here.
Thanks, Jason. I used to work at Qualcomm, and I used to be director of business development. And my team launched multiple connected devices outside of smartphones or tablets. For example, we launched a covered cargo tracking device. We launched a child tracking device, and we launched Alzheimer patient tracking device. It was all like around 2008, 2009. We were a little bit ahead of our time. And that whole experience opened my eyes to two things. First, what a great potential is there with connected devices, and not necessarily with the location, but any types of sensors that you can connect remotely and collect data and do all kinds of things with it. So that was thing number one. Then the thing number two was how cumbersome and how complicated it was to get a connected device to market. There were just so many moving parts and so many different pieces. It was really like pulling teeth. And so with that, basically, that prompted my interest. And with a friend of mine and later co-author Daniel Kelmerite, who is CEO of Datacon USA in San Francisco, we just would get together every once in a while and talk about what's happening in this space called the Internet of Things. So that kind of prompted us to go and write a book. At some point of time, I got so excited about writing the book, and it was taking so much of my time that I decided to leave full-time job at Qualcomm and completely focus on the Internet of Things. And that's what I've been doing over the last 2 years, working with companies, helping companies go to market with IoT and just make sense of the Internet of Things products and solutions, speaking at conferences and meeting a lot of amazing people.
Very cool. So definitely, right up our wheelhouse as home technology enthusiasts. And we've really seen just an explosion in connected devices in the home. And I think you'll be a great guy to chat about that with us. So let's talk just first from a high level about the book, The Silent Intelligence. And when you and your co-authors set out to write this book, what was your main goal? Who is this book for?
Well, so first of all, so he's as I mentioned, he's a CEO of Datacon, which is a consulting company owned by the Deutsche Telekom, and he's this wonderful, beautiful office in downtown San Francisco in a high-rise, in a top floor with great views over the bay. And we would sit there, and I swear, the best ideas and the best thoughts come to your head when you just look outside the window and see the bay and see the city outside. And we kept talking about all the trends like the Internet of Things, and kept talking about, where could we learn more about that? And there were quite a few articles and some white papers and some research studies, but we couldn't find a single book that would kind of put it all together, summarize it, and maybe offer some perspectives of what's coming. And finally, we decided, why don't we just write a book ourselves, a kind of a book that we would like to read. So we were actually kind of writing this book for people like ourselves, for either technology executives or entrepreneurs, for investors, and generally people interested to make sense of the Internet of Things, where it's coming from, what's the history, where it's going, where are the most interesting areas to launch projects and or invest, and how it's actually done. And with that, we basically get together. We had no idea what we're getting ourselves into, but it was actually a lot of fun looking back.
Very cool. I guess let's talk a little bit about this word, the group of words, Internet of Things. It's gotten so popular. I mean, you hear it on just about everything these days. That has to do with technology, mostly around the home, the car, wearables. What exactly is the Internet of Things, and why is it so significant these days?
I know it's kind of confusing in a way, because people call almost everything the Internet of Things. Just to go back in time a little bit, so the term the Internet of Things was created by the guy by the name of Kevin Ashton, who at the time worked at Procter & Gamble. And he was preparing a presentation. That was so that was late 90s. He was preparing a presentation about moving things throughout the supply chain to the board of P&G or something like that. And as you remember, late 90s was the dot-com boom. Everybody was talking about the internet. And as he was trying to explain his vision and explain his concept of all those things that are moving through the supply chain and they're going to be connected to, so he came up with this term, the Internet of Things, which he himself called kind of ungrammatical. He's He's British, and that kind of died. That term kind of died for a few years, and then it came back in the mid 2000s and started growing in popularity. And now it's really, really popular term. So, what does it mean? So, what Kevin was originally referring to was mostly RFID type of connected devices. Now, what we call the Internet of Things now is kind of different, kind of grew out of that concept, but became very different. Essentially, one way to describe it is, we talked about the traditional Internet and the web, and the Internet of Things is kind of extending this virtual world to physical devices around us, to cars, to home appliances, to plants, to our own bodies, to machines in the factory, and so on. And it's almost like creating a digital nervous systems around the world and putting all those digital input-output nodes to all the analog objects around us, which gives a lot of advantages. So advantage number one, you can communicate to them very, very fast, right? Like the benefit of digital communication. Second, you can easily replicate the data that you're collecting from those input-output nodes. And finally, you can easily integrate them with other digital systems, which is hard to do with analog systems. So with all of that, we're basically figuring out the way how to interact with the outside world better, how to understand our own bodies better, how to monitor things in real time, how to manage risk, like take an insurance company. By having sensors in the car and knowing exactly in real time how somebody is driving, they can calculate a risk profile a lot more accurately than just based on demographics. So all in all, this gives us very often real-time data at our fingertips that helps us minimize guesswork, minimize assumptions, base things on real-time data, better calculate risk, and be better in touch with the outside world and actually our own bodies. Gotcha.
So I mean, that's along the lines of what I think of when I've heard that and kind of just inferred it from conversations and news stories that have happened over the last couple of years. But I mean, to me, it just sounds like the things that we're referring to are sensors, right? Like things that gather data and report it back up to a server. Is that right, or is there something else that I'm missing?
Well, it's sensors and actuators, right? So sensors are the ones that are collecting data, and actuators is the one they're actually telling to do something, like light switches or door locks. And very often, human can be completely removed from the equation, right? So one sensor measured something and send this information to several actuators. For example, a sensor which is camera detected a person coming to the front door, which is you, and they opened the door because they know it's you, and things like that.
Very cool. So obviously, anytime we talk about the Internet of Things, we're talking about a very broad topic that spans a lot of different market segments and industries. Obviously, here on HomeTech.fm, our focus is on the smart home. And that's kind of where I want to spend most of the rest of our time chatting is how this, explosion of intelligent, connected, relatively inexpensive devices really is going to affect the home and impact the smart home moving forward. One of the things that I've heard you talk about in various, blog posts, and I think some interviews I've seen on YouTube is sort of this idea that we're kind of at a tipping point with the Internet of Things. And there's a comparison that you've drawn between what happened to the Internet a couple decades ago with the Netscape moment versus now, what we had last year with the Nest moment. And can you talk about that analogy and kind of compare those two events and tell us, what makes them similar and maybe even what makes them slightly different?
Absolutely. So, kind of last year and early last year, we started thinking about can there be any significant event in the Internet of Things which you can say, okay, it was before and after kind of thing. And when we look at the traditional Internet or the web or e-commerce, whatever you want to call it, usually considered to be the Netscape moment, which was in 1995, I believe, somewhere in the fall, when Netscape went public and closed at $2.9 billion on the first day. And that was a shocker for everybody at the time because, people were used to more of brick and mortar companies that had assets, physical assets, that would go public and they would raise a lot of money. But a company that was basically just a browser and raising so much money that was completely unheard of. And what we also remember, what happened after that, because it was kind of such a big event and it was so much money, that prompted the dot-com boom. So a lot of companies rushed into the space hoping to make it big, and that boosted the innovation. As we know, some of those companies did make big, but a lot of companies went bust and then maybe turned into something else. But still, the world that we know today, this virtual world of the Internet, would not be possible without the Netscape moment. And think about it. Today, there's not a single company or not a single process that is not affected by the Internet. Like think about how you book travel, think about how you track your packages that are being shipped to your house, and so on and so on. Right? So now, going back to our times, we started thinking about what could be like a very similar moment to that. And we thought that the Google acquisition of Nest is similar because, first of all, it was $3.2 billion, was a completely unheard of amount of money. I have spoken to quite a few VCs over the last few years, and even 3-4 maybe months before that acquisition, when you would have told somebody that an Internet of Things company could be worth $3.2 billion, they would have thought you're completely insane. Nobody could imagine something like that. And that also prompted a lot of activity. As we know, just last year alone, there were several major acquisitions around connected home. So right after Google bought Nest, they bought Dropcam, and later they bought Revolve, which is the connected home hub. Samsung bought SmartThings for something like $200 million. And by the way, Dropcam was bought for $555 million. So they're all big amounts of money, right? And there were a few smaller acquisitions that happened. And also, like going outside of connected home, PTC acquired ThingWorx and Exida for a total of something like $300 million. So we're quite a few. I mean, this whole M&A activity that was happening last year was unprecedented if you can compare it to what's going on before. So in a way, it's not just Nest. It's a lot of things that followed after Nest, but Nest was kind of this big event. So that's why we're drawing those parallels and think in a way it's similar. Again, as any prediction, you can never be sure. So maybe years looking back, maybe there's some other event that's even bigger that we don't know yet that might happen this year or next year. But so far, it feels like the acquisition of Nest has been this really kind of a watershed moment for the Internet of Things. Yeah.
I mean, you actually just took the words right out of my mouth. I was just going to say, certainly was a watershed moment, and we were definitely on Home Tech watching it very closely and seeing the acquisitions that came after that. And it was still huge amounts of money that were being thrown around, but still just kind of dwarfed by the $3.2 billion acquisition of Nest. And I do think that certainly represented a tipping point and kind of, I think, drove a lot of awareness. Seth and I work in the professionally installed home automation space. And a lot of our customers and clients, they might be aware of certain options to automate your home, but just this general awareness of how connected and how you can go out and just, buy a simple device off the shelf now that gives you a lot of connected features and a lot of that power. And it really just drove a lot of awareness. How do you feel like the connected home in general maybe helping to drive broader awareness of the Internet of Things and of M2M communication?
Well, so a lot of interesting things happened in the connected home last year, right? So we just mentioned a few acquisitions, and we mentioned a few platforms, right? So SmartThings that became Samsung's platform, and Nest that became Google's platform. Then also the announcement of Apple HomeKit, and so on, right? So you really see the emergence of kind of the ecosystem, the leading ecosystems around connected home, which is very important because what was happening before that, there were connected devices coming to market, and each of those connected devices had their own app, right? So you could control your lock with an app, then you could control your lights with an app. It was all very confusing and very fragmented. Then people like SmartThings and Revolve said, okay, we're going to bring us a connected home hub, and you will have an app to connect to control the home hub, and the home hub is going to control the other devices in your house. So they were supposed to simplify, but it was just the first step. And I think there's a lot more going to happen in the connected home. But overall, last year, I think was really also kind of instrumental in creating awareness around the connected home. So now I would also add a couple of things, though. Because at the end of the day, it comes down to use cases. There was some research that was made in the United States that said about 30% of population, something like this, they have some kind of a connected home, connected device, which is a high number. But then it turns out that absolute majority of those are connected TVs. So most households actually don't go beyond connected TVs, like Wi-Fi enabled TVs that, they can browse programs and, download certain things and so on. So people who really install security systems and, some other control applications are kind of still in the minority. And I think that's what's going to change going forward.
That's the 30% number was pretty high because right. I feel like, we talked about this on previous shows, that we are really in that early adopters moment. I wouldn't think right. that the market penetration is much over 10% right now.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And so the reason for the 30% is because almost every TV that you buy right now is a connected TV.
Right.
So what do you do with it is a different question, but it's already comes as a connected TV. So, but I think the trick is not really, buying a connected device and putting inside a home. The trick is really in creating the whole systems that help you solve specific problems or help you live your life better and easier inside of your home, such mm-hmm. as control your energy and save on energy bills, like Nest, right? Or security. So right now, those are probably the most successful use cases inside of connected home: energy management and security. Mm-hmm. Everything else is still kind of I would say, in the very early adopter stage.
Yeah, there was a line in your book that kind of caught my attention, something to the effect of, there should be a reason why your coffee maker needs to talk to your food processor. And I think you were quoting that from one of the gentlemen that you were interviewing for the book. And that struck a chord with me, because I think kind of what we're seeing right now in the smart home is sort of the gold rush that's going on right now, with everybody trying to get in on the action and following the Nest moment and trying to capitalize on that. And really, I think the turning point in the home and what the big question is, and I want to hear your opinion on, is how do we get past sort of the novelty of connected devices in the home, and how does the future connected home create real value and real convenience for consumers?
Well, I think we'll pass the novelty in a very natural way. I think people are already kind of getting a little bit wary and tired of, the connected home and buzzwords and everything. Because at the end of the day, what difference does it make? Of course, you can buy a bunch of cool devices, put them inside of your home, and next time somebody comes over, it's a great conversation starter, right? And you can say, look what I got. But the question is, are you going to be using it 2 months down the road, 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road, 12 months down the road? And that's where I think the utility is going to make a huge difference. If so, for example, Nest thermostat and Nest smoke alarm are extremely intuitive, extremely easy to use, integrated with each other. And now Nest launched the Thread protocol that should allow the communication with other devices also to be very simple. So that's a very, very promising development. So that was about the novelty, and the other thing was about utility, right?
Yeah, just creating, real kind of tangible value to your everyday homeowner or consumer who's not just looking for a cool gadget to kind of show off when people come over, but just your thoughts on very compelling use cases that add real value for your everyday consumer.
So above and beyond what we just discussed, like energy management and security, I think very, very interesting use case is around remote monitoring of your appliances. And here I'm talking about like water heaters, air conditioning units, maybe even your fridge. So to me, connected fridge, at least today, makes a lot more sense as a remote monitoring versus, tell me what do I have inside and give me recipes or order the things that I'm running out of, order some more milk. I don't think we're quite there yet. I think it's still a few years down the road. But what I mean by remote monitoring, diagnostics, and so on, like imagine your water heater starts leaking. When that happens, there's always a danger of, water damage, whatnot. Second, you need to find the contractor who's going to come and fix it. What if you can automate 90% of that? A, it would detect the leaks immediately when they start happening before it's too late. And B, it would automatically connect you to several contractors and let them bid on your business versus you calling multiple contractors. So when a leak happens, the sensor should be able to detect that and should send, with your permission, of course, kind of like an order through a platform like a TaskRabbit or something similar to contractors nearby. Or if the same is happening with your fridge, if your compressor is about to fail, or your air conditioning unit is about to fail, or something else, right? Or when your filters need to be changed, or water filters need to be changed. So right now they have this kind of automatic timer that tells you to change your water filters in your fridge or any other water filters that are not really based on real data, whether the filters actually needs to be changed. They just estimate it needs to be changed every couple of months or so on. What if it all happened automatically? So I think there is a huge promise for somebody who would figure out that platform. I definitely see this as a very promising use case.
Yeah, that could change the way, service business operates around the world. Fairly almost overnight if it were to work that way. I kind of want to take a step back. It sounds like we have all these sensors, and then we have all these actuators and different things, but there's got to be some kind of service connecting them all together and doing all this logic and figuring out what the data actually means, storing the data. I mean, it's got to be collecting a massive amount of data if you start putting sensors on everything. I know of some companies out there, like AT&T has the M2X program, and there's like Xively and a couple other ones out there. Those are not household names. But what do you think about like platforms that are out there right now? And then what do you think that is going to happen in the future here where maybe like Google or Apple or, somebody with a bigger computing, I guess, not computing experience, but, a bigger platform, these bigger players get into the market?
Right. So I would also definitely add AWS or Amazon in general.
Oh, yeah, good one.
Yeah, I think there's definitely there's going to be there's going to be a big difference when when that happens. So all those players. So the question I guess is more about who's going to handle all this data, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we have a number. From what I've seen, is like the people that have run these services, like recently, kind of jumped on the gold rush of the home side, and then said, "Well, wait a minute, the business. There's a lot more going on monitoring gas meters and that kind of thing." And they've gone over to the commercial side. So I'm wondering, there's got to be a void there, and where is the home connected data going to end up? Is it going to end up in the hands of big players like Google and Amazon, or where's all this data going to go?
Well, so there are actually different approaches. I think what it's going to come down to is who's going to dominate the connected home platforms, right? So today we have those emerging platforms by Google and Nest. We have Apple HomeKit. We have Samsung platform with SmartThings. And by the way, Samsung is also part of Nest Thread as one of the founding members. We have Qualcomm AllJoyn. We have AT&T Digital Life. We have, and so on and so on. We can go down the list, right? So eventually those models are going to converge, and there's probably going to be 2, maximum 3 large players, and the rest are going to be more fragmented, more niche. We don't know who those are going to be, but eventually those who are going to be the dominating players, they are also going to be to a large extent responsible for the data. In our book, we also talk about this huge potential for the data brokerage business model. And I think that's where there's a tremendous opportunity for companies. And some companies are already getting into the space as a data brokerage. Data brokerage essentially is taking data from multiple feeds, kind of reshuffling it and setting them out for subscription fees for third parties. For example, if we talk about connected home, there might be a lot of data that's relevant for insurances, relevant for real estate agents, and generally for real estate industry, relevant for law enforcement, relevant for, many other areas. Maybe for aggregated data from multiple households is relevant for financial industry, and so on and so on and so on. So the data brokerage is probably going to be some kind of a third party, more of a trusted third party that can get into those data feeds from whoever is going to be managing your home data. Now, so this thing number one, kind of that's very interesting development to watch, and I think some companies are already trying to get into the space. So thing number two is the emergence of a personal cloud, because not everybody is comfortable with completely giving up their data being stored in the cloud. So some people prefer having some data, at least some data, stored locally. Kind of feels a little bit more control when they have it locally. Of course, there's a threat of, if your house burns down or something like this that gets damaged, then you might lose that data. But at least, so that's kind of proliferating. So there are more companies offering that. At the end of the day, it's all going to come down not just to the data, but to the services that are going to be driven out of the data. So as we mentioned before, those contractors, I really don't want to know and care if my, water heater leaking. I just want to have peace of mind. I want to know if that happens, somebody's going to go and fix it. Somebody's going to come and fix it. I really don't want to know if my washing machine is failing or anything else is bad happening inside the house. I just want to know that no matter what's happening, somebody's going to take care of that, right? And so with all this increasing complexity, nobody really wants to become kind of the IT manager in their house, right? Even like IT manager square, of doing, not only doing your computers and upgrading all the operating systems and downloading all the drivers, but on top of it, you also have a bunch of connected devices in your house, and there's a firmware upgrade, and this thing disconnected from the Wi-Fi. How do I reconnect it? That's kind of the nightmare scenarios that nobody wants to live through, right? And IT manager plus a network operator. So we all want this to be taken care of and kind of happen seamlessly and automatically. I think that's what's going to ensure the adoption.
Very cool. Well, I got to say, it's fascinating conversation and something I could sit here and chat with you about easily for another hour. But we are running up against our time here, and your last point kind of segues perfectly into kind of where this is all going. And you're saying we really want this all to happen seamlessly, and we want it to be easy and convenient and add real value to the connected home and to people's lives in general. So to that end, Daniel, can you maybe wrap up our interview here with some predictions for what we can expect to see develop in the connected home as we move through 2015?
So I think we're going to see more things coming together, right? So if we look at some cool devices out there like Canary or maybe Scout Alarm and so on. So I think being pulled into systems like what the Nest Thread is trying to do or others are trying to do, I think we're going to see a lot more of those. And second, I really want to see some more innovative, complete business models, like we discussed, maybe with contractors or maybe with security, that doesn't just affect a single, connected gizmo, but really takes care of the whole problem inside of your house, whether it's security, whether it's potential leakage, whether it's things failing or anything else. So that's, I think, would really watch out for those.
Very cool. Well, again, really interesting conversation, and I really enjoyed The Silent Intelligence. I think it was a great read, and certainly something that I would highly recommend to anybody listening to our show. Daniel, if anybody's listening who wants to learn more about you or is interested in reading the book, maybe you can give them some information about how they would best do that.
Please reach us at thesilentintelligence.com. Or we're available on Twitter on Silent Intel Book. And we also have a group on LinkedIn, the Silent Intelligence group on LinkedIn. And finally, if you're in San Diego or Southern California, we have a Silent Intelligence meetup. And we do events where we invite different exciting speakers to talk about connected homes, data privacy and security, wearable devices, and many other things.
Very cool. We'll make sure that all gets into our show notes on HomeTech.fm.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it.
All right, Daniel, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us, and we look forward to possibly connecting with you again in the future. Thanks so much.
Me too. Thank you.